Hello, so this is for the subject Strategic Business Analysis, and the topic for this video is International Marketing. So we have here an article from economicsdiscussion.net. Okay, so for the definition, international marketing defined as an activity related to the sale of goods and services of one country in the other, subject to the rules and regulations framed by the countries concerned. Okay. One of the most important things to consider when doing trade in other countries is, of course, compliance with the laws. So it's important that you are aware of the rules and regulations being imposed in that particular country, because what might be legal here could be illegal somewhere else. Okay. In simple words, it refers to marketing activities and operations among the countries of the world following different political and economic systems. Okay, different countries have, different resources, different natural resources, and also they have different priorities when it comes to industry. And so if you're considering doing international trade or, selling your goods or services in other countries, then you should check if there is a demand for that particular good or product. And then you have to consider as well the political and economic system. So political, which industries are being supported and encouraged by the government, and then for the economic systems, see which products are in demand in that particular country. Okay. International marketing is marketing abroad beyond the political boundaries of the country. So essentially, if you're from the Philippines, if you want to offer it in other countries, so that's already international trade. And of course, if you want to sell your goods and services, you have to do international marketing. Okay. International marketing brings countries closer due to economic needs and facilitates understanding and cooperation among them. Sometimes there are, goods and services that is cheap to produce in a particular country. They have the resources needed to produce a product or service, normally products, right? And then you have this country and they have different resources. They have, different natural resources. And so it's possible that they don't have all the resources needed to produce a certain product, and it would be cheaper for them to simply import the products of another country. So in that sense, there is cooperation between these two countries, and somehow there is an agreement, right? And the contents of that agreement, we'll be discussing that later. Okay. It is essentially a constructive economic and commercial activity which is useful and beneficial to all participating countries. International marketing acts as an instrument of global growth and development. Alright. So here in the Philippines, of course, before you are able to conduct business, before you start your own business, before you are allowed to sell your goods and services, you have to secure first, permits, barangay permit, DTI registration or SEC registration. Then you also have to secure mayor's permit, and then you have your BIR registration to make sure that you are complying with tax laws and regulations. And then other than that, if you are operating in a specialized industry, then you have to secure additional licenses. Like banks, you have to get approval from the BSP, or if you're a financial institution, still BSP. And then other, let's say your business is somehow involved in, let's say, mining or with a close interaction with the environment, and you also have to secure DNR permits, okay, things like that, right? And so when you do international trade, when you try to offer goods and services to other countries, then of course you also have to secure permits from them. So you have to comply with their requirements, whatever documentary requirements or operational requirements. So something like you have to ensure that you're going to abide by the rules and regulations being imposed there, right? So for the content of this article, international marketing, so we have the following: definition, scope of international marketing, characteristics, significance, factors affecting international marketing strategy, distribution channels, decisions, and then present international marketing scenario, And lastly, we have international marketing trade barriers or restrictions. Why is it difficult to actually, conduct business in other countries? Normally, this is for, large companies, right? Or for goods or services that can be delivered online, so they can also reach the international market. Okay. Definition provided by eminent authors Philip Kotler, J.B. McKitterick, Hess, and Catheora. Though it has certain distinct characteristics, it is similar to domestic marketing in terms of certain technical attributes. Yes. Marketing can be concerned as an internal part of two processes, this technical and social. International marketing and domestic marketing are identical so far as technical process is concerned. Okay, it really is, identical with each other. But of course, you have your considerations if there are difference in economic situation, political situation, the demand and supply in that particular country. In countries that are, somewhat similar, then essentially there's not much difference. But of course, to a country that is a bit different, you have to consider the differences in marketing your products in their territory. Okay. It includes non-human factors such as product, price, cost, brands, etc. Okay. Normally, the product would be the same. Of course, you already have your product and you simply want to sell it to another country, right? But in terms of price, then you have to consider if there is an existing competition there. You cannot price it the same as the price that you have here in the Philippines because, you have to consider the cost of producing the product in that particular country. Or if you are, planning to simply produce the products here and then ship it to that country, then you have to consider the additional cost of transporting the products, right? Then you have your brands. If the company has a reputation already and, there's some sort of premium because of the brand and the reputation, then that also needs to be considered. But, since if it's possible that you are not well known in that country that you are planning to sell your products to, so have to consider that as well. Okay. The basic principles regarding these variables are of universal applicability. Social aspects of marketing are unique in any given stratum because it involves human elements, namely the behavior pattern of customers and the given characteristics of a society, such as consumers' attitude, values, etc. It is obvious that marketing, to the extent it is visualized as a social process, will be different from domestic marketing. So, for example, things that you have to consider, the culture. There are countries that, majority of the people don't eat certain food. You have the halal products, okay? You have to make sure that you remove any, I think, pork-related ingredients into your products, right? For you to be able to sell to that particular group of people. And then that's just one example, right? And then nowadays you have your vegetarians, vegans, things like that. So it could affect the supply and the demand for a particular product, right? But different countries, of course, you have your different compositions of people. They have different cultures, different beliefs. So let's say in a particular country, price is of great consideration. And then at another country, it's possible that, price is of no concern. What's important is, let's say, quality. They put emphasis on that. Or functionality in other countries. You'd see that there's not much designs or variation in products, but they are just after the functionality of the product. So that's also a possibility. Okay. Kotler has defined marketing as marketing is the analysis, planning, implementation, and control of programs designed to bring about desired exchanges, sale, with target audiences for the purpose of mutual or personal gain. The reason why you are trying to market a product is to eventually, result to a sale. Okay, even if you do marketing, if there's no sale, then it's a failed marketing, right? It relies heavily on the adoption and coordination of product, price, promotion, and place for achieving effective response. So this is the marketing mix, if you remember, right? Product, price, promotion, and place. Essentially, these are what they were actually going to discuss here in this subject. I've just realized recently. Okay, there are two sets of variables in this definition. One is the market, and then the other is human needs and wants, and the process or techniques to convert potential exchanges into realized exchanges. So of course, when you introduce a product to the market, some of them are, interested, curious, but not, they would not immediately buy your product unless they fully understand what your product has to offer. The benefits, the features, the functionality. Does it look good? Is the price affordable? Things like that. And then you have to, create a marketing strategy that would relay those information so that these potential customers would eventually become actual customers, from potential exchanges to realized exchanges. The techniques involved are more or less similar in both domestic and international marketing. Yes, but just different considerations depending on the situation in the particular market. But the variables involved are totally different in case of international marketing. International marketing can therefore be defined as marketing carried on across national boundaries. Yes. The international marketing is different from domestic marketing both in the way of exchange and needs and requirements of international buyers. Okay, so again, there are different groups of people in different cultures could have different beliefs, so they could have different preferences, different what do you call that, criteria when choosing goods and services. Therefore, the knowledge of and the ability to perceive the basic pattern in consumer behavior in different environments is particularly vital element in the makeup of international marketing. You don't have to assume. So, for example, here in the Philippines, these are the considerations. As long as people are like this, as long as you provide your product like that, then the product is going to sell, right? But if you bring it to a different country, then, you can't just assume that they are like the Filipinos. You have to understand their personalities, their character, their behavior, again, their culture, and their beliefs. Okay? The role of marketing manager becomes very important in this context. To work successfully in an international environment, the marketing manager must have the ability to seek to understand the environment and way of thinking regarding the consumers, competitors, suppliers, or employees in the new country. Okay, so we've discussed earlier, the consumers, but of course there's also the competitor. Okay, it's possible that your competitors in that country, of course, it would be domestic or local supplier in that particular country. So in that sense, you don't initially you don't have information regarding them, right? What are they doing? How are they marketing their products? What's the price that they are charging for their products or services, right? And then for suppliers, the cost of producing a particular product would be different here in the Philippines, and then if you go to another country and you decide to produce a product there as well, okay? So there would be different costs because, different economic situations, different economies essentially, right? And then you have your employees. The wage rate here is different to the wage rates there. And then you also have to consider again the culture, and then you have your, how skilled are the employees in that particular country. Continuing on, there must be at least three major dimensions to the skills of international marketing. Competence is the first one, with a sound grasp of marketing concepts, tools, and techniques. So you have to know which one would be applicable for your audience. Secondly, ability to perceive patterns of consumer behavior in different countries and the ability to evaluate the essential differences and similarities between markets. Okay, so this is understanding human behavior, consumer behavior. Okay, you should be, open to the differences and not simply assume that you know what's going on. So because maybe you do not, right? Thirdly, management skill to organize, plan, coordinate, and control an operation of considerably greater complexity, particularly in its human relationships, than that involved in the home market. Okay. Um, so since you're going to be selling your good or services to another country, if it's not, what do you call it, exportation, if you're not going to, manufacture your products here in the Philippines and then just export them to that particular country, and if your plan is to, produce the goods or services in that country as well, then you'd have to essentially operate as a separate business, okay? Probably, a foreign branch or something. And then in that regard, then again, you have to, abide by the laws and regulations, and then you have to hire workers, employees, and in that regard, you also have to have an understanding of your employees, not just the consumers, but the workers as well. So you have to be able to, properly coordinate between the departments, from the HR to the production to the sales, and then to your customer service, okay? Marketing as well. The skills involved in marketing have been aptly summed up by J.B. McKitterick of the General Electric Company. Principal task of the marketing function in a management team, wedded to the marketing concept, is not so much to be skillful in making the customer to what suits the interest of the business as to be skillful in conceiving and then making the business to what suits the interest of the consumer, of the customer. Okay, it's okay. In other words, you're going to create a product that would suit the interest of the consumer and not make a product and then simply pushing it to the customers and creating an artificial demand for it. Okay, it's better to have a product that is actually needed and wanted by the customer. Okay, therefore, it is apparent that the job of international marketing involves an additional dimension and requires a unique combination of skills. Okay, management accountants, again, it normally covers almost every department or aspect of the business. So it's not just about accounting or management eventually, covers everything related to the business. International marketing is the marketing across the national frontiers, refers to the strategy, process, and implementation of the marketing activities in the international arena. So again, whenever I see the word strategy, I just simplify it to plan with the goal of achieving the, of course, the objectives. And then you have your process. Okay, how are you going to implement or execute this strategy? And of course, the implementation itself. Okay, sometimes you have a very good plan, but the execution is less than par. So in that regard, it could still lead to a failure. International marketing may be defined as an activity related to the sale of goods and services of one country in the other, subject to the rules and regulations framed by the countries concerned. In simple words, it refers to marketing activities and operations among the countries of the world following different political and economic systems. Okay. Here's another thing. Normally, foreigners cannot put up a business in, a certain country. There are limits to foreign ownership, and there are only certain industries that are allowed to be owned by foreigners or for foreigners to invest in. So normally, you would have to partner with a local business, right? So you have your locals, they would be, part of the business management or business owners as well. So it really is going to be a partnership normally, and that's how it is here in the Philippines as well. Okay? For foreigners to own certain businesses, they cannot own it 100%, except there are of course exceptions, but for the most part, they are not allowed to own businesses on their own. Okay, especially utilities companies, which need to be owned by Filipinos 100%. Although I think they made exemptions for the third telecommunication company. Okay, I'm not sure if that's an exemption or they revised the law or something. International marketing is marketing abroad beyond the political boundaries of the country, brings countries closer due to economic needs, and facilitates understanding and cooperation among them. Okay, especially for countries that have different resources, different needs, and it would be, much easier for them to simply import the products rather than producing them themselves. Okay. Essentially, a constructive economic and commercial activity which is useful and beneficial to all participating countries. It's also possible that there's an exchange of goods and services between the countries depending on what they have to offer. International marketing acts as an instrument of global growth and development. Okay, the additional demand for the product, if the companies in this particular country has excess capacity to produce those products and services, then and there's not much demand in this particular country, then the excess supply, they could bring it to another country, and that could drive economic growth and development. According to Hess and Cathiora, international marketing is the performance of business activities that direct the flow of goods and services to consumers or users in more than one nation. Marketing may be understood as a human activity directed at satisfying needs and wants through exchange process. Okay. And then it means working with markets. It means attempting to actualize potential exchange for the purpose of satisfying human needs and wants. Includes analyzing the markets for their potentials in order to assess the needs of the customers. International marketing is part of the total marketing process. Okay. Marketing activities carried on by a marketer in more than one nation may be defined as, buying, selling, transportation, storage, warehousing, financing, risk-bearing, pricing, standardizing, advertising, and sales promotion. So those are the marketing activities which can be performed in foreign markets across the national border. Okay, second, we have the scope. So establishing joint ventures and collaboration, licensing agreements, consultancy services, and a few others. Basically, if you want to open a business in a foreign country, it's going to take a lot of time. Of course, you have to study the legal implications first, right? Then you have to have consultancy to know what are the rules and regulations being imposed there. And then you'd have to find partners, local vendors or local businesses that would be willing to partner with you and come to an agreement with regards to, let's say, sharing, management, those things, right? Financial support as well. Okay. These activities are establishing a branch in foreign market for processing, packaging, or assembling the goods according to the needs of the market. Sometimes complete manufacturing is carried out by the branch through direct investments. Okay. There are also cases wherein companies would set up factories in other countries for the sole purpose of manufacturing certain parts of their product. Not the product itself, but just parts of it. And then once the products are manufactured, they would ship it back to a different country, and then the assembly of the parts into the finished product would be done in that other country. Simply because the labor cost of manufacturing the parts is much cheaper in a particular country. Okay. Instead of, having them manufactured in their own country wherein the labor rates are high. Okay. But of course, there are also instances wherein it's some sort of an actual business wherein everything is done there as well, including the manufacturing of the products or service. Joint ventures and collaborations. International marketing includes establishing joint ventures and collaboration in foreign countries with some foreign firms for manufacturing and/or marketing the product. Under these arrangements, the company works in collaboration with foreign firm in order to exploit the foreign market. What's good about having joint ventures or collaboration is that you already have an input, from them. You could easily ask them for, what are the rules and regulations here? What do you understand about the market? Can you share those information for us to, better understand and prepare for the eventual sale and marketing of the products and services? Okay. Licensing arrangements. The company under the system establishes licensing arrangements with a foreign term whereby foreign enterprises are granted the right to use the exporting companies know-how, viz. Patents, processes, or trademarks according to the terms of agreement with or without financial investment. Okay, so this would apply for products that have trademarks, copyright, patents, things like that. Okay. Although they are, licensed in this country, they would need, if it's not an international recognition or an international license, then they would have to apply for another license in that other country. Okay. Consultancy services. Offering consultancy services are also covered in international marketing scope. Exporting company offers consultancy services by undertaking turnkey projects in foreign countries. For this purpose, the exporting company sends its consultants and experts in foreign countries who guide and direct the manufacturing activities on the spot. Okay. So let's say, in that case, you're not actually bringing your own business to another country, but you are setting up another business in that country. So in that sense, you don't need to, bring in all the resources from one country to another. You just need to have the people go over and oversee the establishment of the business and then provide consultancy services on how the operation is to be set up, what they needed to do, how is the process done, especially the production process of the good or service itself. Okay, and then how should the after sales be, customer service, things like that. Okay. Technical and managerial know-how. The scope of international marketing also includes the technical and managerial know-how provided by the exporting company to the importing company. Export, going out, importing company, going in. The technicians and managerial personnel of the exporting company guide and train the technicians and managers of the importing company, especially if, they do not have any knowledge yet of what the product is about, what is this supposed to do, so that they could properly, market it and guide their customers in using it, and of course providing after sales service. Okay. Next, characteristics, different legal system, market characteristics, monetary system, different currency, and procedure and documentation. So probably there would also be tax in that particular country, different tax laws, so we'd have to file differently, right? So first, different legal system. Every country has its own legal system. Some of the countries follow English common law, while others follow the civil law. Some of the European countries are having their own legal system. The difference in the legal system among different countries increases the difficulties of businessmen. Okay? Because again, there could be some things that are, legally done here, but when you go there, it's considered illegal. It is not sure for the businessman that which legal system will be applicable to their business transactions. There must be a uniform legal system. However, some of the agencies are trying to make it uniform for all countries. Okay, but if it cannot be done because of, legal restrictions, then you shouldn't. The United Nations Commission on International Trade Law is also supporting the opinion of uniformity and is doing its efforts to bring uniformity in international trade law. Okay, United Nations supportive of international trade law. Uniformity. Second, market characteristics. Every country is different due to the environmental factors, demand patterns, government controls. In some countries like India and USA, the market characteristics are found different from state to state. It is because of all above factors are responsible for the market characteristics. Okay? Depending on particular situation of a particular region or country. Monetary system decided by the government of the country, and the exchange value of country's currency is being determined by the forces of supply and demand. So there would be issues with regards to exchange rate. Procedure and documentation, especially if the investment would come from, let's say, this country, they would be putting up a business in that country, but the finances would be from this one. So there's going to be an exchange, right? Procedure and documentation. Every country has its own procedure of documentation requirements for the purpose of exports. Every business house has to comply with these rules and regulations for the purposes of exports and imports. Normally, exports and imports, they have very strict guidelines, because essentially you are carrying, the approval of your country's regulatory agencies. You have to make sure that the products are good and they comply to a certain standard, high standards normally. Okay. What is international marketing? Significance, survival, growth of international markets, sales and profits, benefits from diversification, and others. Okay, so again, exchange across national boundaries for the satisfaction of human needs and wants affects consumers in many ways, though its importance is neither well understood nor appreciated. The significance may be explicitly in order to dispel such, I think, notions, not nations. Okay, first of survival. Most of the countries in the world are lacking of market size. They probably have the capacity to produce many products in their country, but there's just, limited demand for it. So for the excess capacity or excess production, they could, carry it to a different country for the demand, resources and opportunities. Okay. Again, there would be countries who don't have a particular resource and another country would have it, and they could do an exchange. And then of course, opportunities. Okay. Where there is demand, the opportunity is there normally. Okay. Therefore, it is their compulsion to trade with other countries for their survival. Since the European countries are small in size, therefore without overseas markets, their firms would not have sufficient economies of scale to be competitive with US-based firms. It is pertinent to mention here that international competition may not be a matter of choice when the survival is at stake. Okay? Right, maybe sometimes they would not consider the competition. Cost leadership is a good, they call that strategy if you want to penetrate a particular economy. Conducted a study on performance following changes in international presence in domestic and transition industries. In a study of 5 pharma sector industries, pharmacies, he found that international expansion is necessary when overseas firms enter a domestic market. He revealed that the firms having substantial market share and international experience expanded their business activities successfully. Because, they have all the experience already. They probably have an understanding already of what to do and what not to do. And all those firms disappeared that retrenched after an international expansion. Okay, second is growth. Despite having numerous problems like economic and marketing problems, the developing nations are considered to be an excellent market to do business. The vast potential of international markets can never be ignored. According to one survey, total world market is 4 times longer in comparison to the US market collectively. The slow growth of US population and changing lifestyle viewed the growth of other markets with a critical eye. It is evident that Russian smokers show no concern about the health risk, and international giants Philip Morris, R.J. Reynolds, Tobacco International SA, and British American Tobacco Co. have entered the market very aggressively. Okay. Growth. Next, we have sales and profits. It is clear that there is a large potential to sell the products in the international market. Constitutes a large amount of share of the total business of many firms. Further, it is evident that many large US-based companies have performed very well in the overseas market. IBM and Compaq are the best examples in this regard. Both of them have maximized their sales in abroad in comparison to their domestic market. Of course, there would be products that can be useful and could function wherever it is, but it would be applicable. I think those are the types of products that would be very successful in international markets. But for products that are, easily manufactured, easily imitated, and could possibly not work in, other areas, then they're going to have a hard time. How are we? In case of Coca-Cola, it is important to mention here that 80% of the total operating profit is contributed by the international sales account of the company. Thus, market is on saturation level, whereas there is still a great potential for its future growth in other countries. Thus, it can be concluded that the international market provides huge potential to increase sales value and profits of the firm. Again, another thing to remember is that entering an international market or penetrating another country's market is difficult to do and normally can only be done by the big companies, by the large corporations, because it's going to be costly and in the beginning, it would be hard to set up. But after it was set up, then, the profits and the sales would normally come in, okay, as long as you have properly set up the business there and done proper marketing. Benefit from diversification. The investors can be benefited from global diversification. Demand of certain products is affected by cyclical factors like recessions, seasonal factors like climatic change. Sale of such products fluctuate adversely due to all these variables. It is the only solution for such kind of risk to diversify a company's risk and to consider foreign market as only solution to overcome with variable demand. Okay? Such markets can provide outlets for excess production capacity. Mentioned earlier, if a company has the ability to produce more, but there's no more demand in a particular market, then you can just go out and seek international markets. Can easily counter such fluctuations. Seasonal factors, for instance, may affect consumption level of soft drinks. Normally, you drink them when the weather is hot, but during cold days, no thanks. And keeping in mind such limitation, the soft drink industries are spreading their marketing activities throughout the global market. They do well in countries like the Philippines because we are tropical countries. Normally, we only have summer and rainy season, but we don't have winter, right? It has been observed that global selling has enabled the company to carry on with production throughout the year and help the companies to stabilize their business. Inflation and price modernization. Benefits of international trade are readily self-evident. Export are always considered beneficial to a country because it's additional sales for that particular country that would contribute to the measure of economic growth and development. On the other hand, imports can also be highly beneficial to a country, but it should be properly controlled and supervised, just like how our country has imported pork products because of the shortage in the supply, as they say, because of the ASF. So, and also there are concerns about its effect on the rice importation on the local price of rice and how our farmers are suffering because of the effects of the importation, and so it should be closely monitored, right? There is not any incentive for domestic firms to moderate these prices. The lack of alternatives in imported products may compel consumers to pay more for the products to local firms, resulting in inflation and excess profits for local firms. Okay? It is evident that in Europe, when the prices of orange juice were jumped up, their customers switched over to other alternative drinks. Finally, it took 10 years for citrus industry to win back these consumers. The U.S. orange growers finally compromised to live with import as they found that alternative juice is able to keep consumers by minimizing the price increases. Okay. International marketing and standard of living. Yeah, I think it should be should be noted here that when the local prices go up, the locals, the people, really have a tendency to just buy from other markets. So sometimes I can't exactly blame the people if they are buying foreign from foreign sellers instead of our local sellers because of the cost. Okay. I still wonder, whenever I go to Shopee to buy some things, I would wonder why the shipping cost is much lower from an international seller compared to a seller here in the Philippines. I keep wondering about that. Number 6, international marketing and standard of living. Helps the countries and their citizens to increase their standard of living. On the other hand, without trade, there may be product shortage and which may force people to pay more or less. International trade make easy for industries to get specialization and gain access to raw materials. And at the same time, it fosters competition and efficiency. So, when people tend to buy products from outside sources instead of the local, then in a way that fosters competition and that forces the local industry to make their processes efficient so that they could lower their costs, so that they could compete with outside producers. And overall, it leads to the conclusion that international trade is helpful to provide their citizens higher standard of living. When you say higher standard of living, it's just, purchasing power of money as well. How much, the more you can purchase with the amount of money that you have. Factors affecting social factors, economic factors, factors affecting international marketing, social factors, economic, competition, political, legal, environment, logistics, and risk. Okay. Could be divided in two ways, controllable and uncontrollable. Our controllable factors, those variables which are under the control of the company's management. It includes the control and design of elements of marketing mix, product, price, promotion, and place. The company is in a position to control and design product, price, place, and promotion. All marketing activities relating to these factors can be well controlled and managed by the company's management. On the other hand, uncontrollable factors are those which are beyond the control of the company, consist of total environment in which the marketing mix elements operate. Okay? Legal, political, so those are normally uncontrollable. Relevant factors, social factors, determine the value system of the society, culture, okay, beliefs, which in turn affect the international marketing mix. Social factors, culture, case, customs, languages, lifestyle, standard of living, climate, and marketing infrastructure. The demand for goods and services is affected by all these factors. There is a lot of change in quality of lifestyle of the people. They are willing to purchase many consumer durables like TV, fridge, computer, even when they cannot afford to buy it, because sometimes it's essential for conduct daily lives to be more convenient. And of course, TV, entertainment, news, you have your fridge so you can stock up on your food, and a computer because you search up many things. Many people are now working with their computers. It became possible because of availability of hire purchase system or installment basis. Cultural factors also influence every aspect of international marketing. Decisions are based on recognition of needs and wants of the customers. The cultural factors help to understand the behavior patterns and lifestyle of the society's culture in which the individual has grown up. Thus, an individual's perception is grounded and influenced by the cultural factors or the social factors. Second, we have the economic factors, significant determinants of international marketing. They affect the survival of a business organization and the success. Okay. Examples of the economic factors. What's this? Exim policy of the country. What's that? Commercial policy. Essentially, these are normally the laws, the rules and regulations. Commercial policy, how you conduct business, what are allowed, what are not allowed. Financial system. Of course, how do they price the products, the value of each product, monetary system, currency restrictions, inflation, and deflation. The decision regarding international marketing mix is taken by keeping in mind the above stated economic factors which determine the economic environment of a country. Therefore, before going for export business or before going for any decision regarding international marketing mix, it is necessary to examine the economic factors, which determines the economic environment of a country. And then we have competition. Important determinant of international marketing mix. Has to face competition in its home market as well as in international market. The international marketing mix is decided by keeping in mind the strategies of the competitors for, again, marketing mix, product, price, place, and promotion. Political factors strongly affected by political environment of the country. A marketer has to operate its business activities in a given political factors. The business operations are greatly affected by the political constraints at different levels. Part of the political factors, the imposition of new taxes, imposition of additional requirements, supervision requirements, of course, priority projects of the government, things like that. Following impact is associated with political factors. If the government is stable, it leads to stable policies relating to the business. If frequent changes are there in the government, then it leads to frequent changes in the policies of the government relating to business operations. Play a major role in deciding the operation of the business organization in the international business. Thus, a business organization has to study and analyze the political environment of a particular country if it has decided to carry out its business operations. Before going for any decision relating to the international business, the business organization has to carry out SWOT analysis, strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats, and cost-benefit analysis. Are the benefits going to outweigh the cost of international marketing mix? It must be analyzed keeping in mind the political scenario of a particular country. Even in local naman, we still, watch the political situation to ensure that the particular laws or bills being proposed would not adversely affect the business. Must be assessed, and the role of private sector, small-scale industry is also important. It must be analyzed at what significant role of multi-corporation is there in the national economy. Legal environment pertains to competition, price setting, taxation, laws. The legal system of a particular country should be studied well before doing business with that country. You don't want to be, penalized by the government, to be thrown into jail, things like that. Logistics, influenced by logistics, includes mode of transportation, cost of transportation, inventory management, material handling, and warehousing. Sometimes all these activities would contribute to more cost of the product. Sometimes products, the cost of manufacturing the product is only this much, but the cost of transporting it and reaching the market, normally those are the ones that balloons the price of the product. Risk. The analysis of the risk factor is an important task to be performed before taking the decisions relating to the international marketing mix. So some of the risks, of course, you have your business risk, interest rate risk, credit risk, foreign exchange risk, related to international trading. Okay. Next, strategy design, implementation, and control and adjustment. Okay. You need to have a plan if you want to penetrate international market. Okay. So the design, search for information to take decisions, ordering of a series of stages, you have to have a step-by-step process in order to get access to external markets. Company internal resources, human, monetary, that should be prepared as well. You should, make sure that you have enough money to finance that. You can't stop halfway because by then it's going to be a loss. And then you have human, skilled people who would be able to properly coordinate with that particular country. Quantification of objectives and supervision of their observance. You have to have measurable goals. How much profit do you expect to have during the first year or the second year, or how much resources do you expect to spend during the first year, second year, and projection in the next 5 years. Essentially, you have your feasibility study. Okay, putting into practice of the different policies so as to accomplish the set goals, compliance with tax laws, other laws and regulations, strategy, different steps, adjustments throughout the implementation of the plan. Sometimes, a plan could change depending on whether new information becomes available to you. You shouldn't, stubbornly stick to a plan. You have to properly adjust because changes do occur and sometimes new information would come in. Okay. Step 1, you have your strategy design. Includes a series of sub-stages. Acquisition of information about international markets. Okay. Fixing of objectives, information inquiry, instruments design, determination of the different traditional and alternative sources of information, market research, acquisition of data elements. What do you do? Do you make surveys or do you just read up on papers? Analysis, comparison, register, accumulation, and interrelation of the information obtained, drawing out conclusions based on the information obtained and analyzed. Okay, after that, initial investigation on international market is going to throw light upon certain issues like the following. So, determination of the most attractive country markets for a particular entrepreneur's product. If there is a great number of equally attractive markets, competition, you have to be aware if there is existing competition. Budget assigned to international markets is meager. Do you have enough money to support, or do you not have enough? Do you need more? Or the company wants to concentrate on a few markets. If they realize that there is already a huge market for a particular product, then they might do away with removing it from their portfolio of products. Different factors will have to be considered to select them. Similarity between external and national markets, number of legal regulations, or cultural issues that imply product adaptation and competitive features, among other factors. Okay. Then you have your particular commercial mix policies, product price promotion and market penetration strategy, agents, distributors, okay, which is applicable for your product depending on the information that you've gathered. International market acquisition of information has a value for the company, which is reflected in some features: exclusivity, reliability, precision, specificity, uncertainty reduction. Information acquisition that has a cost. Entrepreneur must always make adequate analysis of the value-cost ratio or cost-benefit when compiling international information. This primary goal of this stage is the selection of the most adequate markets for the company products. Afterwards, the next stage will proceed, which is fixing of objectives for market access. Objectives as international activity conducting structures. So you have to take into account company internal resources. Do we have enough resources to proceed? Selected market features, which products could we sell here, which markets are, still not saturated, where are the opportunities? Objectives features have the following features: time limit to their completion and evaluation, fall into the frame of the company mission, okay, the alignment with the company's goals and objectives. They have to be quantified, that is turned into goals for the subsequent measurement of results. Okay, have to know whether this is going to be profitable or not. Okay, as early as the planning process, they have to consider that already. If the objective cannot be measured in numbers, there should be at least a valid parameter that could permit to easily verify its completion. Provide appropriate assessment of commercial and financial risk, which implies the development of activities for their completion. Evaluate the existing restrictions in the company as regards assigned resources, quantity, and quality. Consider different alternatives for process activities, development, efficiency. If a certain process could be done better, reducing cost or making it faster, so things like that. In practice, there is always more than one alternative for the company's goals. When there is conflict among several objectives, priorities and considerations will have to be established, and they will have to be divided into main and secondary, and of course the focus should be on the main. When multiple objectives are established, important to analyze the degree of similarity, compatibility, as well as simultaneity or chronological arrangement, which should be, again, prioritized, which should be done first or attained first before proceeding with the others. It is important to consider that some objectives can be autonomous and others are going to be conditioned by the previous completion of lesser objectives. Some objectives can only be achieved if other objectives have already been achieved. So sometimes there is order. Examples of internationalization objectives: achieving certain exports percentage, reaching a specific fixed amount of sales or certain amount of units per market selected, covering a particular market share in a particular country, acquiring a certain profit level, gross or after taxation, achieving certain profitability, gaining access to particular cities or regions, fixing minimum or maximum amount of monthly exports, carrying out specific amounts of shipments, other objectives, performing a certain amount of promotional activities, making commercial and distribution agreements. Okay, so those are some of the objectives. International commercial mix and marketing channel design. Okay. International product policy makes reference to all those attributes, functions, and differentiated features that the product has to satisfy international demand needs, okay, consumers and users. Important policy: necessary materials and components for production should be available. Design and international registration should be done. product color, shape, style, and aesthetic planning, product forms or of use or operating instructions, aspects of product quality and economic life, functional and communicational aspects related to packaging, technical, material, and logistic aspects of export packing. Sometimes they would require the instructions or the labels to be in their particular language, and then there's a translation in English, okay, or another language that they prefer. Services associated to the product, installation, training, parts, replacement, reparation, warranty. Product adaptation, according to destination market, different factors, consumer purchasing power, government regulations, consumption patterns, external client behavior, and economic aspects, among others. Okay. Then we have international price policy. Okay. Pricing considerations could include the following: exported product production cost, financing cost. If you use borrowings to produce the product, then you have to add in the cost of financing, administrative costs, marketing costs, export costs, documents, customs, formalities, duties, carriage, etc. Costs are product-related services, after sales, customer service, other commercial issues, discounts, bonuses, advance or partial payments. Okay. Distribution policy, distribution channel structure or coverage, functions at each distribution channel, number of intermediaries at each channel, communication styles with the channel, contractual issues and retributions at each distribution channel, intervention of intermediaries who facilitate international distribution. Okay, sometimes again, this is what makes products more expensive. The cost of transporting them from one place to another, especially on international levels. International communication policy refers to different transmission aspects to various recipients, consumers, suppliers, employees, or society. Different messages about the product and the company features, attributes that allow the building of a differentiated image of them. So you have your sales promotion, advertising activity, sales force, public relations, and then the packaging visual features. Okay. Marketing mix intimately linked with one another. Product oriented towards high purchasing power segment will need high quality components. Container and product intangible attributes will be highlighted, such as status that promotes consumption. Okay, so you have your different reasons for that. Advertising will be carried out in certain selected media, specialized magazines, publications consumed by people with a high standard of life. Commercial mix design, more complex than one device for national market, because most variables, product price, promotion, and distribution are placed, will be affected in a greater or lesser extent by economic, financial, political, legal, and cultural environments. Different features of each external market. Okay. And then you have your external market access channel selection. The design implies the selection of most adequate company structure for external market access. When evaluating internal market penetration policy, entrepreneurs will have to consider some factors that will affect their decision: size and knowledge of the market to be penetrated, tariff and para-tariff barriers, for import or export, consumer and competition features, type of product, segment orientation, among others. Main marketing channels, so you have the following: sellers, agents and distributors, brokers, international concession, export licensing and franchising, manufacturing contract, administration contract, associative strategies, exports, consortia and cooperative joint ventures. You have your marketing companies, sale branches and subsidiaries, foreign direct investment, other channels, piggybacking, technology transfer, administration contracts. So, some aspects of the business could be, contracted, or, if they want to do it on their own, then go ahead. But sometimes there are benefits to contracting them from the local businesses, right? Like, of course, you get your agents or distributors on the local level. You have your brokers. You could also get administrative contract or manufacturing contract, because it is possible that there are already factories set up there and they have the available workers and they have, relationships with suppliers, and it would be easy to simply have a contract with them that they would be producing the product that you have. Okay. Of course, also, marketing, joint ventures, corporations. Okay. I will cut off the video here, so let's make 2 parts because this is already quite long. Okay, so I'm going to stop here and see you in the next video.